So today we're going to be doing a very quick review of the Mountain Hardwear Skyview 3. So this is quite an old tent. I believe they made it from around about 1995 up to around 2002. It's a 3-season convertible, so it's a 3-season tent that converts to 4-season, so for a bit of light winter use. However, there's a lot of people out there and a lot of reviews that have mentioned that it could be potentially used for some light mountain use as well, which is what I intend to be using it for. It's a very, very similar design to the Mountain Hardwear Trango, the obviously very well-renowned mountaineering and expedition tent. There are a few differences which I will point out now, but apart from that, let's take a look. So initially, from the outside of the tent, it does resemble quite closely the Mountain Hardwear Trango. Obviously, it sits a lot higher, which has its pros and has its cons, of course. In terms of the structure, it's a geodesic or semi-geodesic design. So it does have 3 intercrossing poles as well as the additional pole to give you the large vestibule. So unlike most tents, there are actually 3 exterior doors. So you have a door here on this side of the porch and a door on the other side of the porch. So I'm not sure if this was a design feature, but the porch can be fully retracted, or the vestibule can be fully retracted. As you can see from all the purple loops around the tent, there's plenty of space to peg this thing down, so it can be really truly anchored down. Lots and lots of guying points along the sides, so again this will give it a very, very good performance in 4-season use. On the outside of the vestibule, you will see there is a good clear window here. So again, that's a very, very good feature to have on an expedition or mountaineering tent, as this allows you to sit in there, watch the weather, without having to leave the security and safety of the tent. Typical Mountain Hardwear design, very, very thick webbing on all the points, extremely well made, and considering the age of this tent, it's held up extremely well. I believe the guy lines here were added after manufacture. I think initially they don't generally come with those attached. And again, more pegging points down there. And again over here, so this thing can really be cinched towards the ground. And you'll see there the shape of the geodesic design. You may have noticed that it's a very strange shape. Generally speaking, you would have a porch or the vestibule coming forward across the geodesic design. However, the vestibule on this goes off to one side, over to the left. So it's a very interesting shape. It uses the typical Mountain Hardwear clip-in poles. I think they still do use that technique or that system to this day. All the poles are color-coded, so you have where it's black here, that black pole runs across, and then with the purple, you have 2 purple poles that run across and just clip in. Doesn't take any more than 5-6 minutes to erect the entire tent. You may have also noticed this interesting window here, so we'll get onto that shortly, but that's where the name Skyview comes from. So there is a door here on the side, which is a very nice addition, so this allows you to bypass the vestibule for whatever reason. If you have 3 people in this tent, as it is designed for, it's quite a nice feature to have. That zips right the way down. In typical Mountain Hardwear, you've got a popper at the bottom there to make sure the zip closure stays shut. Once that's closed, you will see it completely seals off that side of the tent. So let's take a look inside. So if we're going from this side here, we can undo this side of the vestibule. That, of course, rolls back. And as you can see, you have a very, very nice sized vestibule in there, so very, very spacious. If we go inside here, you can see the shape of the tent. So for the vestibule here, the poles run up like that. They are Velcro tie-in points here. So again, this can potentially be used without the inner tent. And then of course you've got these clip-on anchor points here where the guy ropes are attached to the outside. So once those are in the ground, it will hug that pole nice and tightly. So if I turn around here, you will start to see the very odd interior design and shape of this Mountain Hardwear tent. So again, here we have the typical Mountain Hardwear clip-in pole design, very, very nice, heavyweight Eastern aluminium poles. And then you have the black one here, which is again through a mesh sleeve, which runs up to the forepeak. I personally think this is a very nice design. You have a nice pocket up there to trap warm or cold air, creating a nice barrier from the outside. And again, with this large mesh panel here, with access to that window. So if you just open up, double doors, as typical with most four-season tents. Nice thick ripstop nylon outer with a mesh fly mesh inner. So if we go inside the tent, there's several features that you would expect from a typical four-season / mountaineering tent. A large ventilator at the end there, so again, really, really good ventilation. There have been reports that this tent isn't ideal for, well, in terms of there's been complaints relating to the ventilation, but again, for a 3 to 4 season convertible, I wouldn't expect it to have amazing ventilation, just simply because, you know, it's a 4-season tent. But there is that nice big ventilated window there, which you can open, and that just allows ventilation down to the floor. I don't know if you can see that. And of course, that can be closed off for 4-season use. There are 3 pockets, so a 3-man tent, which is nice to see. Quite often, you'll just generally have 2 pockets. This is 1, 2, 3, which is it's pretty good, really. Typical mountain hardware, you've got the loop points up there for the triangle gear store, which can be popped up there, or gear loft. Don't actually have one of those at the moment, but I will be looking for one to go in this tent. Lovely, lovely, nice, well-made ripstop nylon inner. There are additional points over in the corners, purple little tabs. I'm unsure to what those are for. I believe they were probably for some sort of insulator or some piece of fabric that could go over the floor to add additional insulation for winter use. But I haven't yet found out what that is for due to the age of the tent. There's not a lot of information on the internet about this thing. So if we look forward here, just do that one up, you'll see you have the very large front door there, which leads into the vestibule. Actually, it might be worth zipping that vestibule up, and then we can take a look at the space available. So there you go. It's a lovely big vestibule, easily big enough for 2 people to sit in there, plenty of space for 2 rucksacks, boots, etc., etc. Once it's cinched down with those 2 points there and there, I believe, you know, it would be plenty adequate for keeping most of the snow out when compared with a lot of tents which tend to sit a lot higher. Again, another complaint for this tent, or in the reviews at least, from well, 20 years ago, was that the sides were too high and too far off the floor. But personally, I think that is just you know, it's just being pitched incorrectly. As you can see here, it is virtually touching the ground on both sides. That, of course, could be brought down a bit further. So that is plenty adequate for winter use. And then there's the arch that runs over the top. It's not quite sitting properly, but I did put this tent up in a hurry. It sits quite nicely up there, which again gives you good stability. Both doors can be zipped down from the top as well, which is amazing. So this is perfect for ventilation. Again, you've got that lovely window to see through. So if you're sat in here during a storm, you can sit in there and you can look out and observe and make sure that you aren't taking a risk if you were to go outside. But of course, those can be opened up additionally if there's no snow. Additionally, you would pitch this tent with prevailing wind on one of the sides, and then you could use the door opposite to ventilate a little bit more. So we'll go back inside. You will start to see the unique feature of this Skyview tent, which is this massive mesh panel that runs all the way across the top there. Go back a bit further, there you go. Which is lovely to have, and that allows you to actually have a sky view. So if you were laying in here at night, if you were pitched up, you could effectively look up at the stars, and it would be a lovely view of the sky, which is again perfect for, again, if you're trapped in during a storm, if there's heavy snow or rain or hail outside, that will give you a lovely view of the sky. You can check weather conditions, and it also helps it to make it a little bit more hospitable in here, you know. Quite often I find with 4-season or mountaineering tents, it's fairly dark inside, and it can get a little bit doom and gloom, you know, being trapped in there for any long period of time. There's the additional side door. So again, from the inside, you can zip another nylon door up and around that to give you a bit of better, you know, insulation or trap more air. So the unique feature of this tent, of course, is that lovely big window. And of course, as a 4-season tent, you wouldn't want to be wasting all of that heat. So, bear with me. If we zip that up, you will now see the window has been covered. So now we are effectively in a 4-season tent in a tent, So So that blocks that off entirely. And of course, if you had those two doors sealed, then this would be, in terms of performance and in terms of heat retention, very, very similar to their Trango series of tents. Same materials are used to make this one, and of course very similar in terms of its design. Very, very big floor plan. I'm just under 6 foot, and as you can see, I can lay here pretty comfortably with a lot more space. So as a 3-person tent, this is plenty spacious. Very, very, very spacious tent. Lovely amount of space, very livable. Plenty of space to sit up, play cards, organize gear, etc., etc. This tent does need reproofing. You may have noticed on the ground sheet there are spots around this tent that need to be reproofed, but of course that's not a big deal considering this tent's age. This panel can be completely zipped out as well, so if you are into trying to save a little bit of weight, this is a fairly heavy tent. I think it comes in around about 3.6 kilograms, so it is pretty heavy for its size. However, for a potentially 4-season tent, that is not really a concern, to be honest, especially for its size. If there's 3 of you, between 3 people, that's an okay load. And there you go. But this piece here can be removed, so again, saving weight. I will be buying some lightweight aluminium MSR pegs for this, so again, reducing some weight. I've got some snow anchors to go with it. But yeah, so a lovely, lovely, interesting design tent. I wish this tent was still manufactured, or at least a tent very similar to this. It's a very unique idea for a tent, a very interesting idea. And I think that if they were to utilize modern silicon materials, they could probably manufacture this thing and save a bit of extra weight. But for the time being, this tent is perfect for what I'm using it for. It will be replacing my current 4-season tent for winter use. Again, this thing's probably not going to see much use in the summer months, just because obviously as a convertible 4-season tent, it's never going to be ideal for summer use unless of course you exclude the fly sheet. But here in the UK, that's never a wise decision. Yeah, so thank you for watching. I made this video today simply because there are no real reviews of this tent. I think there's one guy who's made a review, but it's very, very simple, very basic, doesn't really go into detail about the parts. So I thought I'd make one, as I know that there are still a few of these tents knocking around in the UK, in the US. They were very, very sought after in their day. Very, very well made to the typical mountain hardware standard. And even to this day, I think they do hold up pretty well. They are, of course, on the slightly heavier side, but when compared with other 4-season tents, the Terra Nova, Quasar, Mountain Hardwear Trango, it's very similar in terms of weight. Of course, you're not going to get the same performance, but for the price point of around about £100 to £200, I think that's what, $200, $300, you're getting effectively a good 4-season tent that can be used for lighter winter, autumn use, or fall use. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you've enjoyed, and yeah, cheers.